My appendix saga began in my second last year of high school. It was another new school I had just joined. It was a great school, I loved it. Made great friends there. And I started having a pain in my stomach. Oh, like a really bad pain, a weird pain. Deep down. And it got really bad, so eventually I went to the doctor, and the doctor probably was the one who prescribed me painkillers first, and I don't know what they were at the beginning. They probably weren't what I ended up with. It lasted probably about 12 months, this appendix saga lasted. So I was going back to the doctor, complaining about this really bad pain that I was getting. It was awful. So I got sent to the hospital, and they checked me out at the hospital, and I suspect that it was there that my pain medication was increased, and I was prescribed a strong opioid to take 4 times a day, and that wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. And the maximum it said that you could take was 8 in a day. And this went on all year long, and every day I was in pain, and every day I was taking the opioids. Maximum 8 a day. I got to the point I was taking 12 a day. That's how bad the pain was. Back to the hospital again for another checkup and see what's going on. Couldn't find anything wrong. Sent me away again. These days, I think that they don't sit around much. I think that they will assume that this is most likely your appendix, and they will just go in and take that out. That certainly was not the case back in the 90s when this happened for me. It was horrendous, it was awful, it was excruciating, and it finally was resolved, but I had to come close to death to resolve it. And I was out with a friend of mine, a Cantonese friend of mine, on the far side of the city. She lived on the far side of the city to me, and I would go visit her there very often. She was my best friend. And we were sitting in a pub one afternoon. I don't think we were drinking alcohol or anything. We were just, I don't know what we were drinking, something. And I had to go, I was having my pain, and the pain was really bad. My friend knew this, she understood all of this pain that I was experiencing this year. And so I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. So off I went to the toilets in the pub, and the next thing I know, I'm being slapped in the face by a paramedic who's saying, "Stay awake, stay awake, stay awake." What? I'm in the back of an ambulance. Stay awake, 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 stay awake. Wanted to keep me conscious. And I guess I didn't really keep conscious. I went in and out of consciousness, despite the slapping on the face. And then the next thing I remember is that I'm lying face down on a gurney, and a nurse is sticking a suppository up my ass. And I go, oh, And that's the last thing I remember from there. And then I guess they brought me to theatre, saw the problem, which was a big inflamed appendix, and they took out my appendix. Well done. Finally, you got it. It had to come to that. It had to come to me nearly dying for them to act on the appendix problem. So I woke up then, I opened my eyes, I was in a very large hospital room just to myself. I guess it's just the luck of the draw, you know, they come at a quiet time, busy time, and you get what you get. And I could see at the far side of the room there were 4 people sitting there. My mother, my father, they had been summoned from Tipperary where they lived. So they came up to Dublin to see their son who had his appendix out by emergency. And they were sitting there, and beside them were sitting my friend who was in the pub with me, my Cantonese friend, and beside her sat another Cantonese friend that I had, Chinese, and they were separate to each other. I was pretty deep down, well, if you can ever say that, but I hung out with the Chinese community a lot back in those days. But this is an appendix story. So yeah, so I came to, and my mom and dad were delighted that I was alive, as was I, as was everybody that came. These people came far across the city to see me in this hospital, to sit by my bedside. These were good friends. And I always thought it funny for my parents, because I don't think they particularly ever even saw, let alone spoke to, a Chinese person in their lives. And so that was kind of funny. Yeah. So I didn't have to take those opioids anymore. And I think I just did that cold turkey, because I was just so delighted that my pain was gone. And I was so delighted that I survived, unconscious on the floor of a public toilet. That's where the ambulance man got me out of. Well done, sir. Was there a girl with you, a lady? I don't know. I don't remember nothing. I remember you slapping me in the face. That's all I remember. Did a good job. And the surgeons did a good job acting immediately. So that was a good ending to a pretty horrible year. That must have been goddamn tough on me. I mean, I did okay in my final exams in school, but how I managed to do anything that year in school, I was high all the time. I was popping 2 of those, I think, before I would go to school in the morning. And I probably had more in my pocket that I was taking, obviously did, that I was taking throughout the school day. I was high on opioids in that school for that year, my second last year. The final year I was not on those drugs anymore. It was great. It was fine. But yeah, they got me hooked on opioids. I never liked it at the time. I recognized that this is a serious drug that I really only in serious situations should be taking. And it was a serious situation, so I was taking it. But it had to come to an explosion point where the appendix ruptured and toxins started to fill my body. That was a nasty operation, I bet, that have to do whoever did it. I have no idea how long I was on the table for, never asked, don't really care. Respect to the anesthesiologists. I have ultimate respect for those people. They are the DJs of life and death and consciousness. Everybody involved that day, the emergency services, the hospital people, the doctors, the surgeons, the nurses, the porters, the cleaners, everybody, you all play a part in saving my life, so thank you for that. So don't ignore pain if you have it, and it's recurring, because it could be your appendix. And don't let it get to the point that you have to go unconscious on the floor of a public toilet. Avoid that. Yeah, avoid that. That's life or death situation. I survived. I was lucky. I'm a lucky son of a bitch in many ways, and I was lucky that time. Have a great day. Thanks.